Alrighty, and I'm just going to pull up YouTube right quick to make sure we're rolling. And for some reason, it never gives me a fucking notification. There it is. Oh, there it is. There it is. You want to throw me a little bit of audio, buddy?
Check, check. Mic check, 1, 2.
There it is. You want to throw me a little bit of audio, buddy?
Check, check. Mic check, 1, 2.
Perfect. Alrighty, welcome everybody to the long-awaited next episode of Down the Middle. Life happens sometimes. It's okay. You'll get over it. This podcast is brought to you by Stevie Wicks, Cool Beans Candle Company. More on them in a moment. But tonight, we are talking AEW Collision, specifically the first episode and the aftermath therein. Now, dare I say, expectations were low for Collision. But personally, to me, as far as AEW is concerned, it's delivering. Now, there are some factors at play here, and I'm not trying to be an AEW Collision shill, but the fact of the matter is the first episode of Collision was the best episode of AEW television I've seen in years.
I can completely agree with that. I really can. And you obviously got to factor in Chicago, and you got to factor in that CM Punk's back after this long-awaited, 6 months it's been, 4 months, 5 months, whatever it's been, since he's been gone.
Maybe even a little bit longer. It's been since All Out. I don't recall when that was, but
then probably about 8-9 months ago or so.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Okay.
Yeah. So that has to factor in.
Oh, sure.
So well.
Sure.
And then everybody was long awaited to see. Everyone knows CM Punk. He's always got something to say.
I don't think his promo was all that contentious. I think he did don't get me wrong, it was a good program because it was a good promo because those who know, but it was masterfully worded. Which for those of you who watched, the program began the only way it really could was CM Punk's music. However, the first thing I noticed was commentary team. Wow. Very good. I did not know Nigel McGuinness joined up with AEW, but I was pleasantly surprised. And good old Kevin Kelly, good old dependable Kevin Kelly. Holy shit, they sounded like a real professional wrestling announce team.
Isn't that what you're supposed to have?
Yes, but we haven't had that in ages, with rare exceptions when JR wasn't. Well, when JR was there, and when JR wasn't audibly rolling his eyes with what he was seeing on the monitor.
Yeah.
And in a very welcome change, the commentating team for not Rampage, for Collision is at ringside.
And I like it.
And
it seems like a more professional setting.
I didn't really, you know what's funny about that? I didn't miss it until I saw it again in AEW. I didn't mind, it never bothered me that the commentary team was all the way up, I guess at the top of the stage. But when I saw them at ringside, I was like, okay, I like this better. If for no other reason, it just seems sort of legitimate, and the commentary team can directly interact with wrestlers during the match, not just when they're coming down the ramp.
Yeah.
It's happened a couple of times on Collision already. And I was so proud of AEW because I thought for sure, they've got a commentary table at ringside, someone's going to destroy it. They did not, at least I don't think anybody has yet, but certainly not on the debut episode, which I saw coming, and it never happened.
No, I to my knowledge, I don't think it's happened yet either on Collision.
And I'm not shocked at all. But Jim Cornette had a lot of very, very nice things to say about the debut episode of Collision, and we'll get into why as we go through the show. But let's go ahead and get started. No, it did not begin with a. Did it begin with a Punk promo? I can't remember now. I think it did.
I think it started. He did have something I find interesting. I believe he came out with a red bag.
It was a bag of some kind, and we all know what that is.
Well, people were thinking it's his world title that he had that he never lost.
It is.
Or I theorized that Collision could be getting their own world title.
Well, they might be, but he didn't say on the debut episode of Collision, but he did say later that it is the world title belt that he never lost. This was on a later, I believe, episode 3 of Collision, 2 or 3. It is the belt, but he also came out with wrestling boots around his neck, which here's what I have to say about Collision. As predictable as professional wrestling is and can be, there are moments in numerous episodes, or numerous moments in episodes of Collision, that even though I had a pretty good idea just using general pro wrestling knowledge and history, I still wasn't exactly sure what was going to happen or what they were going to say. And that's when this stuff is the best. Because wouldn't that be just the biggest letdown ever for Punk to come out back on television only to retire? Now, I didn't think that was going to happen, but Punk's good enough to where he makes you think, maybe. And then it served his promo, which I figured it would, but there was just that glimmer of doubt for just a split second. And Punk's not the only one who does this, but Punk's really good at it, is you don't know when he's working and you don't know when he's shooting when it comes to a promo.
That is true, because he has a history of both.
That's skill, because, and Jim Cornette says it, this isn't verbatim, but something to the effect of is, you give the audience enough stuff that they know is true, and then you start working, so then they don't know what's bullshit and what's not.
Yep. And it works.
For all we know, we may have called it, and Punk and the Elite and management and AEW have all shaken hands and, rah, rah. I don't think that's the case, but
I don't fully think it is either, at least yet.
I mean, here's the thing, though. I think they might be very, very wisely keeping how do I say this? I mean, realistically, they should. And if they have, it serves them better to not openly admit it yet, because they can use that later.
They can use it for heat.
Yeah, but we know there was some controversy about Ace Steel being at Collision shows, which has been resolved because Punk threw up a stink about that, which I don't blame him. That was part of the deal. I understand why Punk wants Ace Steel there, because Ace Steel's his agent, I get it. And it was a real bitch move on Tony Khan's part to basically be like, oh yeah, Punk, whatever you want. Oh, well, we're going to pay him to be an agent, but he's not going to be at the tapings. What? Because you can't stand up to your EVPs, who are your employees, who work for you? If that all is in fact how it went down. But that's what I have read and heard from various sources within the professional wrestling profession. But anyway, so Punk delivers a fantastic promo as per usual. And then our first match is Wardlow versus Luchasaurus, in a match that initially I thought about skipping, but I said, nope, I'm going to give Rampage... I keep calling it Rampage. I'm going to give Collision a chance. And honestly, it might be the best match Luchasaurus has had, the best singles match.
Yeah, it was solid.
Because he's been in some real bangers of tag team matches, I'll give him that. But yeah, this might be the best singles match Luchasaurus has ever been in. And it wasn't crazy, it was just good
wrestling.
It was just good pro wrestling, and I did not expect Wardlow to lose that TNT title. Now, upon further reflection, I'm happy about this, because now Wardlow is kind of freed up to look MJF's way, if you know what I'm saying, which I think is where they're going with it.
I don't know, I'm liking what him and Adam Cole are doing right now, so...
Well, okay, I don't mean immediately, so I should clarify. But now Wardlow is no longer held down with it. So he's free to do something else, because we can all agree, and it's not Wardlow's fault, because his TNT title run should have been amazing, but through no fault of his own other than bad booking and maybe going along with it, which how much of a stink can Wardlow really kick up.
Yeah.
His title run was a stinker. So I think it is best to get the belt off of him. But now we have some interesting things going on with Christian and Luchasaurus that, honestly, I didn't think I would like, but I'm kind of liking it. And it all started on Collision. But yeah, it was a solid match. I was entertained thoroughly the whole way through. And again, there was enough, because knowing AEW over the years, I would say, yeah, Wardlow's going to beat him. And on Dynamite, he would have.
Yeah.
But there was enough doubt cast even during the match where, don't get me wrong, the ending was a surprise, but it wasn't like super random. By the time the end of the match rolled around, you could see the credibility. And you might have been surprised it went that way, but it wasn't like completely out of left field. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I at one point I was waiting to see if Christian Cage would try to interrupt and like accidentally cause Luchasaurus.
Well, Christian did try to interrupt, but another amazing thing that happens seems to only happen on Collision. The referee did his fucking job.
Yeah.
Like, I was shocked. I was flabbergasted, stunned, and so happy to see it. The ref did their job.
I don't know, maybe somebody else is booking Collision.
From the looks of things, someone else is. Or at least somebody else is running the show. Like, maybe they're not booking the matches, but the agents are clearly doing something. Even if it's the same people, they're doing something different. But it seems like a totally different... It seems like a totally different company.
It feels like it, too.
It felt like a high-budget Ring of Honor, and I mean that in the best way possible.
I could not agree more.
But the next match, which was even better, and I was not expecting anything. And honestly, a little bit of a segue, but just to sing some praises for Andrade El Idolo. When he was in NXT, Andrade Cien Almas, I did not like him. I didn't think he was any good. I didn't know he was La Sombra at the time. I saw his matches and I'm like, what? Why did they hire this dude? And then I saw the NXT title match between him and Aleister Black at the time. And then I realized where Andrade is so good. Like, don't get me wrong, Andrade's offense is good. Andrade can sell like so well. And that's even more impressive considering that he came from the Lucha Libre background where selling is optional, to put it kindly. Yeah. It's an afterthought. Yeah. But I saw and Andrade has this, I can't even really put it into words, but it's kind of like Andrade has a way of taking a beating and then standing back up where you're like, this dude is tough.
Yep.
And it's because he sells so well. Because, Malachi kicked... I'm not Malachi, sorry. Back then, Aleister Black kicked the shit out of him.
Oh, yeah, he did.
And he still won. And after that match, I was like, I totally get it. I totally get it now. And I've been waiting to see that Andrade again. And I saw him again in the first episode of Collision.
I think we may slowly be seeing him again. I think he may be getting...
Well, they're finally doing something with him. They're telling a story with him. Because this match was the first match he had with a member of the House of Black. And let's be real, Buddy Matthews is a friggin' beast.
Yeah, he's just as good.
He's so good. He was definitely... Well, I liked him a lot in NXT. I liked what they were doing with him in NXT when he was in the tag team. And then when he got to the main roster, when it was Blake and Murphy and Alexa Bliss was their manager, that was kind of the peak for him in WWE. Once he got to the main roster, they weren't utilizing him properly. But holy crap, we saw a lot. I mean, Buddy Matthews, real good. And look
at the figure four that he done.
Yeah, and then up into the figure eight, which is a nice little nod to those that know. But here's the thing, and this is why it's genius. And they've done this a couple of times in Collision where they've done things where it's like hardcore wrestling fans get it, but if you don't know, it's still a good part of the match because the where they put it, Andrade starts with a figure four, it's not quite doing it, then he goes into figure eight. It makes sense. So those of us that know, that's an homage to his father-in-law and then it's an homage to his wife. But if you don't know that, it's still a good part of the match because it's like, oh, he can't get it, so he put more oomph into it.
Well, Buddy Matthews did the same thing and gave Andrade the reverse cloverleaf.
You're right, I forgot about that, but I recognized that at the time, but I'd forgotten about that. And the commentators knew, and they kind of gave little. They didn't come out and say it, but they made references that, again, the hardcore wrestling fans would know. And Julia Hart was there. I mean, they did some kind of weird bit where she picked up Andrade's mask. It didn't ruin the match at all, but I was just kind of like, whatever. It wouldn't be AEW if there wasn't something that made no sense.
Yeah.
We got to do something kooky. I don't even remember who won. I think Andrade won that one, didn't he?
I do think Andrade won.
Yeah. And then next, we saw another rehabilitated career. Miro returned to the ring against Tony Nese. Now, the only thing I didn't like about this, but I understand why they did it. I don't like what they're doing with Tony Nese's character because Tony Nese is better than a chicken shit heel, but that's what they're doing with him for the time being. So it's not out of character for him. I just don't like that direction, but that's just my personal opinion. It fits the character they have going with him right now. And Miro just came out and
They booked him like a beast.
Yeah, he came out and wrecked his shit, which Miro is now a badass again.
They booked Miro like a badass, like he should be.
So you can. I've been thinking about this after the subsequent Miro matches on Collision, and I have a thought. I think I'm right, but as a wrestler yourself, I want you to hear this and tell me if I'm right or wrong. So the only thing I don't like about what Miro's doing is the game over thing. I think that catchphrase it takes me out of the moment because, again, they're booking him like a beast who's going in there and hurting people. And for him to just pause and give a way too long catchphrase. But the other thing is when he does his camel clutch, it feels like the person's already there and then he puts a loose grip on and then kind of pulls back, but the guy's already back. Is that for the other person's safety?
It's not really a safety thing. So when you have somebody in the camel clutch, like depending on how the person's taking the camel clutch, is how you adjust yourself. Because like some people, because I've given the camel clutch multiple times, some people I like it when they don't put their arms up and I have to put their arms up because that's really selling the point of they're wore out, they're tired, they can't do nothing. But when you have somebody kind of like on their hands and knees and just kind of like put their arms on their legs, then you gotta almost oversell it. So you really putting your arm there and then you're wrenching back on them.
Yeah. Do you get what I'm saying though? Because the way Miro does it is it's like he doesn't even lock it in. He puts his arms where they need to be, but they're not locked into the dude's face. And then he kind of like he doesn't even wrench it back. He just kind of puts his hands on the guy's chin, but there's space there from the very beginning. And the main reason I don't like it is because if you recall Miro's debut in AEW, he messed up and the other guy's head wasn't where it was supposed to be. And because Miro isn't pulling his opponent's head back, he missed, and the guy's selling without Miro's arms being there.
Okay, so yeah, I see what you're getting at now. It could be a safety thing. I've personally never had any kind of issues with something like that.
Well, neither did the Iron Sheik, so
I don't. It may be Miro's just playing too safe.
Which I guess I can respect that, but at the same time, it just to me it seems like it would look better. Not trying to tell him how to do it, but
when Miro's in, like he's sitting on the guy's back, like he is sitting on the guy's back. When I do it, I'm not sitting on his back. Like I'm over top of him. His arms are on my legs, and I'm just wrenching it in. I'm not sitting back on him, but I'm just kind of wrenching his head back and trying to exaggerate the tension of the look.
Gotcha. So it probably is a safety thing, but I wonder if there's a way they could tweak that to just make it a little bit more impactful. You know?
They could.
Yeah. But as we said, Miro won, and Miro's now a force to be reckoned with again. And then next we had the biggest surprise I had of the night is we had a good girls match.
It was solid.
We had a really good girls match. Like, I was not expecting this. We saw Ruby Soho and Toni Storm versus Sky Blue and Willow Nightingale.
Speaking of Sky Blue, sorry, I had to look around, see if there's anything around me. That was a nice she has a lot of good assets when it came to the match.
Did you just now notice that? Dude, she's been investing in those assets since day one. Well, you can see she puts a lot of thought into her ring gear, if you know what I mean.
Well, if she keeps bringing them assets to the ring, we're going to have issues.
Now, to be fair, I think the assets are growing a bit. You know, it's like compound interest. Let's just say that market's being watched.
Oh, I guarantee it.
Yeah. But yes, I am fully aware of her portfolio of assets. But that wasn't the only thing that was good in this match. They actually wrestled pretty good too.
It was definitely a solid women's match, specifically for a tag. It was a tag, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. You're right. Yeah, it's solid for a women's tag, which
two good things in one, and that's non AEW right there. Like, what is going on?
It's very rare in AEW for sure.
I want to know who booked this.
I do too, man. Actually, I wondered. I'm gonna browse real quick. I don't know who books AEW Collision.
Well, they usually have like match coordinators and stuff too. So like, maybe the match coordinator is different from Dynamite to Collision.
Uh-oh. Wrestling veteran claims Tony Khan didn't book AEW Collision. Let's see. Dutch Mantel has made the bizarre claim that Collision wasn't booked by AEW CEO and general manager Tony Khan. Quote, "This is what I thought about the new AEW show Collision. It wasn't booked by Tony Khan. I believe that it had to be booked by someone else, CM Punk maybe. The show looked entirely different with much bigger and muscular guys. Plus, it flowed well. Your opinion?" Maybe not CM Punk, but
he may have influence on it.
Oh, I'm sure CM Punk had influence. I'll put it this way. I think CM Punk booked the main event.
Yeah,
for sure. For sure. Tony Khan is famously hands-on with all his shows, including booking for Ring of Honor mistake as well. So it would be a surprising departure if Khan didn't have his fingerprints all over AEW's new Saturday night show. To me, I would agree with Dutch Mantel because as far as I can tell, it showed. Hakime commented, "Lots of cheeks." It was a different match. Yes.
I'm not saying Tony Khan has definitely not got his fingerprints all over it, but there's something different about the booking. This isn't a Tony Khan booked show.
See, to me, it should. Well, I'd be happy if Tony Khan didn't book Dynamite anymore, but if he must book something, give him Dynamite. Like, I get it. It's his thing, and then the ratings can speak for themselves, you know. It's a shame Collision isn't doing better in the ratings, though, because it's a superior show.
At this point.
I'm guessing it has something to do with the fact that it's on Saturdays, and for those of you who may not be aware, on general television, Wednesday is a huge night because historically, that's the night of the week that most people are home and not out doing. So your big shows used to be on Wednesday, and your big shows were on Friday night too, but it was different because Friday nights were the big heavy hitters before the advent of the DVR, when people would literally say, "Oh, I'm not going to go out because my show's on." But after the DVR, that kind of went away. So Wednesday night is a huge show. And then Hakime, again, it felt like what Rampage should have been. I agree, except now they really have a golden opportunity here because they can do not even a hard roster split, but here's how they can do it. You can have the main Dynamite roster, which is basically the Elite and their friends, and then you can have the real pro wrestlers on Saturday night, and Rampage can be a head-to-head kind of Ring of Honor style card with intermixing. You can continue storylines, but it's really more like and correct me if I'm wrong, they've stopped the YouTube shows, right?
I think Dark is no more. I don't think they do Dark.
I agree. I don't think they do. So realistically, Rampage could take the place of like what Dark Elevation was, except less no-name talent and more lower level talent, but intermixing the cards. You know, that's where you'd see like your outside of a pay-per-view. That's where you'd see like your CM Punk versus Hangman Page, something like that. And then God knows what they're doing. Why doesn't Tony Khan put Ring of Honor on YouTube? Because here's the thing. I don't think Tony Khan's going to get Ring of Honor on TV, because if he does, it'd have to be part of Warner Brothers Discovery's network because he's got to deal with them. So it'd have to be on one of their networks. Now, here's what I think. Warner Brothers just so happens to own its own streaming service. So I don't understand why AEW programming and Ring of Honor are not available on Max, because AEW All Access is.
Is it?
It is. It is on Max. So at the very least, let's put Ring of Honor on Max until you can find it a television home. Because I guarantee you, the biggest problem Ring of Honor has ever had in its entire existence is it's hard to watch.
Yep.
It's either unavailable, or it's on at weird times, or it's only available on the internet. Like, put it on a streaming service that's widely available. I guarantee you Ring of Honor will get high viewership for a wrestling program, especially if Tony Khan doesn't book it. I wonder, you know, it would be so cool to have like the old school. Give it to Christopher Daniels to book. That would be so.
I'd be okay with it. Christopher Daniels and Samoa Joe.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, give it to the old guard of Ring of Honor to book, because nobody understands Ring of Honor like Chris Daniels, Samoa Joe, CM Punk, Roderick Strong, all those guys, Adam Cole even.
Yep.
I don't know how good of a booker Adam Cole is, but it's got to be better than like. But yeah, I think Christopher Daniels should be given the job of head booker of Ring of Honor, because I think that would just be so cool for him.
Oh yeah.
Like, talk about a full circle career. And I think that would probably, not trying to speak for Christopher Daniels, I think that would be just the perfect culmination of his career in pro wrestling.
Yeah, I think that would that'd finally be his like end of it all ends. And like he could even book himself into doing something. He could even book himself into a retirement match into it.
Well, I think that those guys are all smart enough to recognize, though, that Ring of Honor would do well with a booking committee sort of thing, because all those guys are smart enough to know that sometimes an individual can be wrong. Because, like, as much as I generally like Jim Cornette's, you know, take on things, he was dead wrong about Kevin Steen.
Yeah.
You know, he was just dead wrong. And he's been wrong about other things, too. Now, like I said, generally speaking, I like his take on stuff, but everybody can be wrong about something, you know, and that's why a committee is a great idea, because, you know, if Jim Cornette had more of a booking committee when he was booking Ring of Honor, which I think he kind of did, but he always had the last say, that's my understanding. But if it had been a legitimate committee, he could have been like, I want to get rid of Steen because he can't lose weight. And everybody else, like Steve Carino, for example, would have been like, no, the audience is literally screaming for this dude. Which ended up happening anyway, for those of you who remember. But, yeah, so let's try to just put it on HBO Max, or I guess it's Max now. Just put it on Max until, and really, I think if they want to bump their numbers up, WWE has their show streaming on Hulu. Put it a couple days after it airs on TV. Just put it on HBO Max.
Yep.
It'll make my life a lot easier for sure. And you'll grow your audience because a lot of people don't have cable anymore.
And then on top of that, you're going to grow Max because then you got people wanting to watch Ring of Honor. They have to buy Max to be able to watch Ring of Honor. Now you got people discovering more of Max.
Yeah, exactly.
More people.
100%. And don't tell me that Peacock's numbers didn't go up when WWE put their network on there.
I didn't know Peacock was a thing until WWE went over there.
I was aware of it, but I had zero interest in it. Until I was like, oh, I can pay $6 a month and get all the WWE pay-per-views? Yeah, and here's the thing. AEW... Now, I don't think AEW should put their pay-per-views on there for first viewing, but I think after that, they should be available.
Yeah.
Like, not immediately after either, because you want to get the replays and stuff for Bleacher Report. I get that. But, maybe by the time the next pay-per-view comes around, you put it on there. See, I think by then anybody who wants to watch it now will have already seen it. So now it's people can catch up, and you can search by match like you could with the WWE Network. I don't think you can anymore. I actually preferred the WWE Network to Peacock, but that's just me. Speaking of though, let's see where are we going now?
After women's tag.
Oh, yeah. So the women's tag was quite good. Oh, my God. How did I mess this up? I lost my place. Sorry, everybody.
Oh, no.
Okay. I'm back. But then we had the main... And you notice this card only had...
6 matches, maybe?
I think 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it had 5 wrestling matches in 2 hours. Just compare that, because... And they had some backstages and stuff like that, too. But before we get to the main event, it's time for a shameless plug. Brian, are you tired of your house smelling like things that don't smell very good?
All the time.
Because it happens, folks. Everybody we stink, man. It happens. So you could invest a lot of money in perfumes, colognes, expensive shower gels that last, or you can buy Stevie Wicks candles and your house will always smell fresh and basically whatever scent you want because they all exist. And introducing the new summer collection, one of which being Wild Watermelon. Check that out. It looked like a watermelon, and it definitely smells like one too. I can vouch for that. I don't even like watermelon, and I like this. But folks, the summer collection will be available on StevieWicks.com soon. You can get yours very soon, and if you use promo code DOWN, you can get 10% off your entire order of all-natural soy wax and candle products. And another special announcement, Brian, does your wife like jewelry? Of course she does. Well, wouldn't it be great if you could have a website where you could buy her a candle and some semi-precious stone jewelry for very, very reasonable prices?
For a very reasonable price?
Very reasonable prices. Damn it, because very soon also, Stevie Wicks is adding their already existing jewelry line, which you can also purchase if you're in the Columbus, Indiana area. You can purchase in shop at OMG CBD, another happy sponsor of the podcast. But you will soon be able to purchase the one-of-a-kind, each piece is one-of-a-kind, handcrafted, semi-precious stone jewelry, and the same promo code applies. So if you use your promo code DOWN, you can get 10% off your jewelry as well. www.steviewicks.com. That's STEVIEWIX.com. All of those products will be available soon. Candles are available now. Get yours today. And stop smelling like ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, all those TikToks you were sending me just brighten up my day so much. Love them.
Yeah.
But now it's time for the main events. We saw Bullet Club Gold, which loved their shirts, consisting of Jay White and Juice Robinson, joined by Samoa Joe versus CMFTR, which is self-explanatory. Because Brian, who's in CMFTR?
We have CM Punk, and then we have FTR.
Oh, I bet that's why they called it CMFTR. That's clever.
Wow.
This match.
Who would have thought of that one?
I know. It writes itself. Wow, this match, man. This match was a banger. And this is one of the very few times, actually, it's the first time I can think of in a very long time where they advertised the main event at the beginning of the show, and I was like, oh, I gotta stay for that.
So, I do agree with that. I do like how they did that. The match was solid, but there's one thing throwing me off. And it's just my personal belief. I don't think CM Punk is as good now as he was his first go around with AEW.
I know exactly what you're talking about, but and this is how good Punk is this good. They might be doing that on purpose. And the reason I say that is because Punk definitely understands that. How do I word this? Punk understands the MJF model, which is the less you see him wrestling, the more you want to see him wrestle, which pays off in the event of a pay-per-view. Now, one other thing might be he understands that, I don't want to say injury prone, but you're right, he's not as young as he once was. So this might be a way where he can wrestle on TV and run less of a risk of getting injured.
Could be.
But my point is, I don't know. And it could be the old adage, always leave them wanting more, which I definitely wanted more. But here's the other part of it. So if this were a legitimate fight, would you logically use the two younger guys who are tag team specialists more often than you would your older seasoned singles guy?
Probably.
I would say yes, because if you notice too, Jin and Juice were used more often than Samoa Joe. Now, I think less people noticed that because everybody was kind of waiting for CM Punk to get back in the ring. But I noticed that Joe was used very sparingly. And the other reason that worked is because when Joe and Punk got into the ring, this was another example of those who know. But those who don't know, the commentators did a perfect job. This is the first time in 18 years that Samoa Joe and CM Punk have been in a wrestling ring together.
Mm-hmm.
And those that know about those matches back in 2004, and man, that false finish with the Coquina clutch, you think, again, general AEW history, you think, oh yeah, CMFTR is going to win. But man, I thought they were going to lose. And then did you see that body check that Cash did?
Oh my goodness.
Holy shit. I don't think neither one of them gets credit, but Cash is, I'm sure Dax is too, but Cash shows it. Like, holy crap.
Something I do want to bring out, and this is not particular Collision, but this is CM Punk in general, and this was at All In a few weeks after this episode. How they did the homage back to the Lariat and Kojima thing. I loved it.
Oh, I think you mean Forbidden Door.
We have Forbidden Door.
Yeah,
when they did that Forbidden Door, I thought it was great.
I didn't watch Forbidden Door, but I mean, I didn't. Just to me, it seems like Forbidden Door, like if you recall the old like ROH New Japan War of the Worlds cards,
Yeah.
those were solid because they were built up over time. The Forbidden Door matches, and this includes the first one, just seemed like they were randomly thrown together.
They were built into like a 2-3 week span.
Yeah, which I'd almost rather them be just cold matches at that point, honestly. Because then at least you have the novelty.
Agreeable.
But again, that's
But
just my preference.
yeah, back to that main event tag. It was definitely solid. I see what you're getting at now with CM Punk, and it was definitely a step back in for CM Punk to get back in the ring.
Well, I think they learned their lesson about running, you know, running before you walk. And I think Punk may have been pushing for that because if you recall with the Moxley debacle, and I agree with Punk on this, there was absolutely no reason for them to have a title match 2 weeks before a pay per view.
No.
It's only asking to get injured because there's no payoff that's worth that risk when you have a pay per view in 2 weeks. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
No, I agree with that.
But so that was the first. Honestly, if I were giving that out of 10, I'd have given that like a solid 9, maybe 9.5. Just because, like, was anything. Well, the main event was amazing, but everything else was just solidly good. That, like, I'd rather have a card of just solidly good matches than have a mediocre card with one amazing match.
I think I could give it a solid 9.
Yeah, 9.5. Like, which in AEW terms, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then as we all know, week 2 suffered a little bit just because it just wasn't as good of a card. But again, there were still moments that were good. Like now, I know you'll disagree with me. Like the Andrade Brody King match, didn't like. I was gonna say I didn't like it as much as the Buddy Matthews one, but for someone I don't like Brody King at all, but I was at least engaged in this match. And again, Andrade made you, which I mean, it helps that Brody King is, that. But Andrade made you believe he was getting the shit kicked out of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Miro had another squash match.
I believe he did. I don't remember with who.
He was not a no name, but he was on a dark participant. But he actually, that surprised me. That tells me they've got plans for him because he got some offense in on Miro, and believable offense. So I was like, oh, okay. And then I can't remember if it was this one. I think it was episode 3 of Collision. We saw Powerhouse Hobbs and Dustin Rhodes.
Yes, and that was a solid.
Wow! Holy shit! Like, don't get me wrong. I figured that Powerhouse Hobbs was going to win because they've kind of been building him back up again. But man, I thought to myself as this match was going, I'm like, man, wouldn't it be great if Dustin won the Owen Hart Classic? And there were moments in that match where you thought he was going to pull it off.
Like, Dustin may be 600 years old, but...
And, I mean, let's just talk about the Rhodes family power slam for a minute. Just...
Every single one of them have the perfect power slam.
It's so good. I mean, Randy Orton's got a really good power slam, too. But it's like... And then Dustin's Destroyer is like... It's so impressive when he does it, because he even made it look great with Powerhouse Hobbs, and Powerhouse Hobbs is not a little boy.
Yeah, it's solid.
Everything Dustin, like, it's funny, for those, like, he's called the Natural for a reason. I mean, he's that good. But he made Powerhouse Hobbs look like $1 million. And don't remember, Powerhouse Hobbs did a lot, too, because you want to talk about Chris moves, let's talk about Powerhouse Hobbs' Spinebuster.
They're definitely stiff though.
Oh yeah, 100%. But I was watching that match and I was just like, I can't remember the last time I was that into a match that was on just like the regular weekly TV.
Yeah,
I don't think since Cody left,
probably not.
if I'm being honest. The last one I can think of is maybe, I can't remember which was first. I think Eddie Kingston and Cody was first, and then Ricky Starks. So whichever one of those happened most recently. Which just an aside for both those matches, I had never heard of Eddie Kingston or Ricky Starks before their debuts on AEW TV, and those segments should be studied for how to introduce someone cold to a crowd and get you to root for them. Like, because don't get me wrong, I'm a Cody fan, but I was like, oh, this Eddie Kingston dude, look out. Which, if they move Eddie Kingston to Collision, I would be very happy because they can fix that mess.
Yeah.
Any other standout matches from Collision episodes? Because I'm sure I'm forgetting some.
Not off the top of my mind. Them are the ones that really stuck out to me.
Yeah, the main events I've watched are solid, but it's hard to compete with that first main event.
Yeah.
Actually, no, there is another one. Ricky Starks had a pretty good match against who was that match against? What? Oh, Juice Robinson. I think that was on the third episode. Because it was the third episode because week 2, it was CMFTR and Ricky Starks versus Gin and Juice and the Guns.
Yes.
Which was another really good match. Just it's really hard to compete with that first one. And again, Ricky Starks is somebody who it's like, it's so funny though, because if you look at who's on what show, it's like the lines are drawn. It's very clear who wants to play around on trampolines, as Jim Cornette would say, and who wants to have pro wrestling matches. And just another side note on the main event from Collision episode 1, how many times did they fight outside the ring? 0. They didn't go outside the ring. And I hate 95% of the time when they fight on the outside. I hate it because most of the time it's not called for. It doesn't make any sense. And why is the referee not counting? Like, you have a 10 count and they're out there for 3 fucking minutes.
Or they lead to a fight on the outside and it always leads to a dive.
Always. Now, again, I don't mind it when Darby Allin does it because when he does it, he actually looks like he's trying to kill somebody.
Yeah. Or himself.
Well, both. But I'm convinced that Darby Allin doesn't feel pain, so. There's no way he can. Like, I mean, he sells it, but there's no way.
He's got to be some kind of robotic body or something.
Some kind of freak of nature because that coffin drop, dude, I bit it, like, okay, in Krav Maga, we learned how to do fall breaks. Dude, I do fall breaks on a padded mat, and I'm still like, oh, fuck, that hurt. And this dude does it as a finishing move. And he doesn't even slap the ground. He hits back, all back. Yeah. I don't know how the dude can still breathe.
Beats me.
Haven't a clue, but a salute to you, Mr. Allen. I would say keep it up, but honestly, please stop. I want you
Darby Allin down the years.
Yeah, I want Darby Allin to have a long and storied career, and you just, as much as I love it, please don't do it anymore, or at least save it for pay-per-views.
Agreeable.
Like, that's just, the first time I saw that coffin drop, dude, I was like, ooh, that looked like it hurt.
The first time I seen it is when he faced Joey Janela, and he used that. It was that with that wood barrel.
Yep, that was at
the first big pay-per-view, I think.
Was it at Double or Nothing? Yeah, so. I think it was. Ooh. Yeah. Oh, that smarts. I'm going to look at the main events from subsequent collisions, see if I can remember anything, but then we can wrap her up.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. Oh, what did you think of the theme song for Collision?
It's different. I like it.
You know what? I'll be honest. I didn't like it at first, but it's growing on me. It's way different. I said the same thing about FTR's new music, though. When I first heard it, I did not like it. Now I love it. Yeah, it's definitely growing on me. It does. I mean, they're going out of their way to make this a different feel. That's for sure. Okay, what's going on here? I'm sorry, everybody. I'm trying to find this where. Oh, different ring announcer, too. I forgot. Dasha Gonzalez is the ring announcer for Collision,
Yeah.
which, again, I like.
Yeah. It definitely feels different.
Like I said, they're just going out of their way to make this feel like a different show, and I think that's the way to go because it honestly reminds me of like the early days of SmackDown when it's like, no, this is a totally different show.
Yeah.
Although you probably did notice the logo is just like a complete design ripoff of Monday Nitro, which again I don't hate, but I often laugh at how similar AEW and WCW are at times.
I've said that for a very long time.
You and a lot of other people, but and you're not wrong. I don't know why I can't find these. Oh well, I give up. Everybody, if you're watching this, what was your favorite match on AEW? Oh shoot, sorry. Hakime has made a bunch of comments. He's headed down to Stevie Wicks now. I do feel he's not as active as before, but I don't mind it. I assume that's Punk you're talking about. I never considered Punk as a super athlete, but had good matches. Actually, it's funny because Punk, if you've seen the WWE documentary they did, Ace Steel is on there saying that when he came to wrestling school, it was like he and Colt Cabana were training together, and they were complete opposites because Colt Cabana was a natural athlete but terrible on the mic, and CM Punk had quote lead in his ass. But you give him a mic and he makes it blow up. Now, I think Punk obviously got better, but yeah, I know what you mean because Punk has never struck me as a super athlete either, but he's got really good psychology.
Yeah.
Because like I've seen him do things. Now again, this kind of works for him because it makes it look a little bit more natural and less gymnasty. But yeah, I would not consider Punk to be a super duper athlete, comparatively speaking to some of the other people. But psychology more than makes up for it.
Yeah.
And I too am hoping for Punk versus Kenta, maybe at the next Forbidden Door. Hopefully, maybe. See, that's a match I think everybody wants to see.
Or Punk and FTR versus the Elite.
Well, we definitely want to see that. Which, and I will say this publicly and without any shame or remorse, if we don't get that match, we all know who's to blame.
Yep.
You know who you are. Actually, no, probably. Because I think Kenny's down for it.
I guarantee he is.
It's probably the Buckaroos, if anybody. Which, I mean, they should be down for it because it's just money. It's just guaranteed money. But what I was saying, everybody, let us know what your favorite match from Collision has been so far and what your just general thoughts on Collision have been. Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you want some more of it? I know I do. Hakime feels the same way. Or is it Hakeem? I should clarify. Judging by your profile picture, I'm guessing Hakime, but it might be Hakeem. What's been your favorite match so far on Collision? Hakeem or Hakime? Name to be determined. While we're waiting for him, I'll go ahead and lead us out. Him or her, gender unknown. Thank you, everybody, for enjoying this episode of Down the Middle. We're happy to be back. Yeah, I agree. He said it's been great. I just hope the numbers come up. Yeah, so do we. Because if the numbers go up for Collision, it means that they'll hopefully emulate it for the rest of the programming block. But we shall see. Anywho, thanks for enjoying this episode of Down the Middle. And Brian, we have another episode tomorrow night because of the delay in episodes. We're giving you a bonus one this week. Tomorrow night, roundaboutish the same time, we're going to be revising our Fantasy Forbidden Door WWE. It's the second way to say Hakeem. Yeah, I don't know why that hit me right at the end. I was like, oh, I might be pronouncing that wrong. But we're going to be revising our Fantasy WWE AEW Super Forbidden Door card.
Yes, we are. And then I am going to figure out a way, because I have WWE 2K23 and everybody makes creative wrestlers and everything, and I'm going to figure out a way to mash it together to make a down the middle, all out, or Forbidden Door pay-per-view. And then me and him are going to figure out a way to commentate over it.
Oh, we most definitely can. In fact, you know what we could probably do? We could probably just stream it and you and I be audio only.
Could be.
That would probably be the easiest way to do it.
Because I have the Series X. I could bring it over and we could live stream it.
Or we could even live stream it here because I can just share the screen and then you and I will audio. There's a number of ways we can do it.
Figure that out when it comes to that point.
Yeah, exactly. But we will be doing that. And then I had another small announcement, but I'm actually going to save it till tomorrow night because I found some old stuff that fans of this show might like to see, but I'm going to ask you guys if you want to see it first. But that will be tomorrow night, so you will have incentive to watch. So like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Be sure to check out all of our other videos as well as past episodes right here on YouTube. And if you prefer to listen to the podcast, you can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Amazon, artemedia.org, all those places. You can find us there. And be sure to get your Stevie Wicks candles and jewelry coming soon. And we will see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm bionic elbowed the microphone. That was not as cool as I thought it was going to be. I got... Bye.